Good morning, everybody. We have our technology figured out. It is Thursday,
So
November
far,
21st. Pardon?
so far. We have
So
it
far.
figured out so far. Yes. Good morning, everybody. Yes, a couple technical difficulties, but we are here, and here we are. So, Jane, what we're talking rescission period today?
Yeah, only because the market's picking up. I was perceiving
Yeah.
that it was picking up. I saw the stats. I'm right. And so I just thought I'd talk about it because we rescinded an offer from a buyer, and the seller, because I use that word, rescind,
Mhm. Yeah.
was very, very concerned that perhaps they had to pay a rescission fee, which they did not. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting one. If you rescind, okay. So, okay, let's talk. Let's do some definitions here, guys. So, what do we mean when we say rescission? What are we talking about?
so we counter offered. We got an offer, we counter offered, and then we rescinded that offer. What that means is that we said we don't want to work with you anymore. We're going to work with another offer.
Right.
So,
So I mean, words are important and also so subtle, right? And we've got so many different ways to use them. So you can, there's this rescission period where you can rescind your, you can get out of an actual agreed contract. You actually have the right to do that within 3 business days of accepting an offer. But you can also, you're talking about rescinding during negotiations because you've countered an offer, but the other party hasn't yet accepted it. You're not actually in a contract and you're
right.
rescinding. I use the word revoke just to make that difference because
Oh,
you
okay.
can, yeah, because you can, I mean, it's subtle, but there's a difference there. And you're
Yep.
revoking the other party's right to accept your offer. You could
Right.
also say rescinding, but we're using that. I think you could say rescinding as well, but you're, it's just got so much confusion now because we use that other word um, with that new rate that the provincial government has added.
Right. Correct. I will say revoke from now on.
There we go. Hey, I had influence on Jane.
Means the same thing, but anyway, that's okay. We just said we don't want to work with you anymore. Sorry, we're moving away, going to a
Right.
different offer. Yeah.
I have had one in my entire career, 18 years. I've had one contract revoked, rescinded, um, in that kind of scenario, and it was totally, on my buyer that they did this. They took way too long to make a decision. When we'd received a counter offer after making an initial offer, and they sat for like 24 hours. I forget the offer was open for quite a long time. And they sat for quite a long time, and then the other agent, and their buyer, their client seller, revoked our offer. And they said, no, we don't want to work with you anymore. We take away your right to accept this offer. And it was
Revoke means put an end to the validity or operation. What do you mean by revoke? Take back or withdrawal? Annul. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Same
So you said
situation.
here, yeah, here is a contract. If you accept it, we have a deal. Oh, you haven't accepted it yet? It's no longer open. It's no longer on the table. I'm revoking that. I'm taking it back. I like the physical feeling of like I'm revoking that. Rescinding is kind of like, yeah. But what is the definition of rescind
Interestingly,
then? If we're gonna, what would you? What is our Webster dictionary or
rescind,
Wikipedia or online
revoke,
AI telling us?
cancel, or repeal. Repeal. These are all
Yeah,
similar. Revoke, cancel,
right.
or repeal. To make void by action of enacting authority.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it's the same thing. So good. All right, let's get on with
Yeah,
the show, babe.
yeah.
All right, it's November 21st. Welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Board. We're going to talk about rescission and how it affects buyers and sellers. We're just going to go over the rules because, when this first started, there was a bit of confusion. So now we're well practiced in it. So don't forget, if you do like the show, like us, subscribe, comment, and share to somebody who you think might be interested. And I don't know about you, but I put these in a playlist on my YouTube channel. So here we go. What's been going on this past week, Andrew?
Oh my gosh. So, hey, we've been watching these stats for quite some time. Oftentimes, the new listings to pendings ratio, we're looking at the right-hand graph here, by the way, if you're looking at graphs and watching us live. And usually the new listings are about, the pending properties going pending are maybe 40%, sometimes up to 50%, sometimes more like quarter to a third. But right now we're almost on 1-to-1. For every listing that's gone live, we had 158 listings go live in the last week, 157 went unconditional. So we have pretty much an 1-to-1 ratio of, for every listing coming on into the pool of listings available for sale, there's an equal number going out of that same pool. So 122 price decreases, that's also quite a high number. And then, when you add the number of properties going pending plus the number of properties that expired, that means we actually have more properties coming off the market than going on. So we're going to start seeing our inventory going down if we continue to see this trend.
Which is normal for this time of year, which we'll see here on this one. So you're right. November 2024, 287, this is as of Monday, net unconditional sales. That's compared to 394 for the month of November last year. So we are going to surpass that, I think.
We're definitely on target to surpass.
Yeah, new listings were also down 512 compared to 885 last year.
Yeah.
And active listings were going down, so we're at 3,013 compared to last week we were 3,063. So still up over last year.
Up over last year, but maybe next week we'll be under 3,000 listings, which I think it's been a while to see that. So,
yeah. Okay, the rescission period. So not every property is involved in a rescission period. You have to have a detached home, a semi-detached house, a townhome, apartment, or duplex. Basically, it's freehold property. A manufactured home that is affixed to the land. That means it has a foundation and a cooperative interest. That's in a building where you own shares.
Share in a corporation, and a corporation gives you the right to occupy a space in the building. We see a number of those in Oak Bay, and it's and we see that kind of structure also in some recreational properties and older. It's the equivalent, or it's what people used to do instead of a strata. Anyway, getting into the weeds. Sorry, guys. I guess it's better to say what's not. Yeah, there it is. What's not included in the rescission period. So we've got residential properties that are located on leased land. They are not subject to the ability to rescind. If you are making an offer on a property on leased land, you cannot rescind your offer. Okay, and actually, again, I want to make sure we're clear on definitions. If you make an offer, you can rescind it before it's accepted. That's still allowed. Revoke was the word we were using earlier. But if you make the offer and the other party accepts it, and now you have an actual contract, there is the right to to rescind within 3 business days. This is what we're talking about, just specifically this. So if you're making an offer on leased land with a residential property on it, and the seller accepts, no option to rescind. Leasehold property and leasehold interest in residential property. You see the theme here, leasehold, no ability to rescind. An auctioned property, no ability to rescind. And a court-ordered sale as well. Once it goes to court and the court makes a decision, there's no getting, you need to come to court with an unconditional offer, and there's no rescinding after that. You are expected to have done your due diligence. And that's really smart. That makes sense, because otherwise we'd have court case after court case after court case as things It's just not worth. It's too much trouble.
So how do you tell that something's leased? We look at the title, and there'll be what's called a head lease on it. Usually it's First Nations or Indigenous land. And then there's townhouses and also mobile homes on properties like this, generally.
Those are common examples. So we see a lot of leased properties along Great Flower Road. We've got the Orchard House, that's a company owns the head lease. It's not, I'm not sure who the owner of the property is under that head lease, but it's not First Nations land. But that's in James Bay. And then there's a number of others in Fairfield, Cook Street Village, Southgate area. One other, I don't know, I just don't know if you added a slide for this, but I also want to say that there always has been, I don't know about always, but as long as we've been in our career, there's been the ability to rescind on new construction, like a condo.
Yes.
And that's a 7-day right to rescind. Yes.
Right. I did not put that in here because the 7 days, it's spelled out in the contract as well.
Right.
So, and what is common in all of these is you don't have a form where you say, I'm not rescinding. You just don't rescind. So after 3 days, I often ask, so how's it going? Because we want to know whether or not you're going to be.
There's a positive obligation to rescind. And if you don't take action, you're deemed not to have rescinded after the period is up. And you automatically are now in a firm and binding contract. So where are some areas where, so the reason we're talking about this now is because it looks like the market is heating up and there's more likelihood of seeing multiple offers. And with more multiple offers, people tend to be a little bit more gung-ho cowboy around what conditions they include. And this rescission period allows people to make an actual offer with no conditions at all and still have a right to walk away within 3 business days. So it's a strategy that some people use. There was a cost to it. But for some people, it's worth that cost to get their offer accepted and have the right to decide from there if they're going to buy the place or not, especially if it's one that it's the only one they're going to find in a year and it's a great price and so forth.
Okay, so let's talk about this. So you have 3 business days to rescind your offer. So let's say you write an offer on a Monday, you have until Thursday, so 3 business days, 24 hours from midnight to rescind. If you do rescind and it's really only applies if it's an unconditional offer, really, because it's unconditional. And that's the only way to get out of it. If it's conditional, I have always assumed it does not apply because you may say you're not going to, your financing hasn't been approved or whatever.
I'll talk about that in a sec. So we had that situation happen recently, but we'll finish this and then I can speak to that a little bit.
So for $1 million, the rescission fee is $2,500. It's 25%, 0.25% of the purchase price.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead. You had something where you went into the weeds and somebody.
Well, yeah, we did go into the weeds a little bit. We had an offer on a property. It was a conditional offer, and the thing with these conditional offers, let's say the conditions are for 1 week's time. That's going to go further beyond this rescission period. So the person has the right to go and get a building inspection and review title and strata doc review and so on. So the assumption is that they're not going to need the rescission period because if they don't buy it, it's going to be based on something else. But what happened was we had an offer. It came in. It was conditional. But what happened was pretty quickly they read through the strata documents, decided that what turned out sounds like these people just are not ready to buy a strata. Didn't understand what buying a strata meant. Got scared off by a couple of things they saw in there that looked really common to us. And they said, we don't want to buy anymore. Thanks very much. Here's a blanking on the word. but we're going to send you a release. We're going to send you a release. Here it is in the first couple of days. We're releasing you from contract. And my client said, hang on, this was within the rescission period, so we get paid this fee. They owe us this fee because they released within the condition, this period. And it, unfortunately, the language from the government, from the legislation is not really clear. When you read it, it pretty much says if you walk away from a property within 3 business days, that is due. So they got a legal opinion. Their lawyer said, I think you have the right to do it, but you really want to fight this. And that was kind of where we went with that. And they decided not to pursue it. But there is that gray area. And I would caution people. And you know what, honestly, this agent, I really respected what they did. They said, we didn't want you guys to be left on hanging, waiting to find out if we're going to buy or not when we know we're not going to buy. So we're going to release you early and give you the right, let you, pull the Band-Aid, go on, you can go find other buyers for this property. You're not stuck waiting till 7 days are up. Which I loved about that, but it actually, they should have waited 3 business days just to protect their clients, just in case, because it's still a gray area and it's not yet, there's not been a court decision or a finding that sort of says one way or another.
I agree with that. So that it is true. What people are doing is they're waiting till after the 3 days, and then they're saying the 3 business days. Then they're saying. Yeah. But the problem is, if you write an offer on a Friday, then the 3 business days are till the Wednesday next week, and so that's just too long. And sometimes people want to move on. So that may be why.
And if it's a long weekend and so forth, yeah. I mean, that would be a great. If you are going to write an unconditional offer, you're kind of buffered extra. You have extra time to do your own background due diligence if you do it on a long weekend,
Yeah.
Long weekend.
So one way to circumvent this is what we've done is we've actually written offers with conditions, but they've only been for 3 business days. So we can compete against an unconditional offer. And we're at least being honest that we're going to be doing our due diligence during that period. So we get the inspection in super quick and all that.
Okay.
Because if people are looking like, if I'm going to be tied up for 3 days, am I going to be tied up with somebody who's just going to maybe willy-nilly go yes or no, or I'm going to be tied up with somebody who's actually going to do their due diligence and invest in the property?
That's interesting that you take the position that this is actually a stronger offer if you add conditions. It's always interesting to me that sellers seem to appreciate and prefer offers with no conditions. I think it's like the holy grail or the unicorn offer, and they've heard from their friends and they've watched the shows on TV. And, we've got an unconditional offer. Even with the rescission period, I think they still put extra value on that. And so having conditions, any condition, I think weakens the offer. It protects the buyers, but I think it weakens the offer.
The buyers protected anyway. I don't know. I'm just telling you the way I saw it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Well, so you said it protects the buyer anyway, but it doesn't. If you have say you have a conditional offer that's 3 business days versus an unconditional offer, and you still got the rescission period, you don't have the right to enter the property, to do a building inspection, to gather this due diligence. You can walk away for any reason whatsoever, but you actually don't have the ability to look under the hood and do the inspections and investigations you might do that you would have with conditions.
If you were to sell a car to somebody and they said, I'm going to take it and I'm not going to do any due diligence, and here you go, and I'm just going to drive away. Yeah. Oh, but I have 3 days to return it or whatever, or it's just sitting there in the lot. Yeah. Versus somebody who's able to take a test drive. I think in the long run, what's going to come back and bite you in the butt?
Yeah, I guess it depends. I mean, the thing is, there's one added, that analogy is great, but there's one added subtlety is, with the, hey, I'll take your car cash, I'll pick it up on Tuesday, and I won't be driving it. I'm just going to come back Tuesday and drive it away. But if I don't take it, you get to keep a portion of what I paid you versus
A quarter of a percent.
a quarter of a percent, which this, I mean, again, $2,500 on $1 million is not it's a small percentage, but it's a lot more money than, you know, a nickel, a quarter on a dollar. No, a quarter on $100. Is that right? No.
The thing is
Anyway,
that the reason why those people walked away from that offer
yeah,
was not because they had the right to walk away. They walked away because they reviewed the strata docs.
hmm and you can do that regardless of whether. I mean, there are certain things you can do with rescission period, regardless of the condition. So, in some ways, we use some of these conditions too for some CYA for ourselves as agents. Because if we write an offer with no conditions and say, you know, it's okay, you can do your due diligence, you can read the strata documents. If that's your only concern, we don't need to put that in as a condition. Then if later on they find something in the strata docs that they missed when they were reviewing it, and they say, well, my agent didn't protect me because they didn't include this clause. And yet they had the same opportunity, we had the same discussions, we did the same review, but it's the semantics of it.
Yeah. Lots of semantics today. Okay, so for sellers, the sellers cannot waive the rescission. And
Yeah.
they also, the seller will receive a disclosure of the buyer's right of rescission when an offer is made. That's just within the contract.
That's within the contract now, yeah. That's the legislation piece, but it's just baked into the contract now.
So the thing is when you have an offer like this as a buyer agent, really another cover your butt position is to make sure that a deposit comes in within 2 days, business days, so that you can actually have the deposit on hand to pay the rescission fee if the buyer defaults.
Okay. So another subtlety here that Jean's talking about, and this gets into the mechanics of, okay, there's a 20.25% fee required if you rescind, but it's up to the buyer to pay the seller that. And if the buyer just disappears, the seller is going to have to chase them for this. Let's say it's $2,500 for $1 million offer. They're going to have to chase them for that. Whereas if the deposit's already in hand, it automatically just flows. There's instructions already within the contract, and the brokerages have to provide to the right people. So it looks better, and it's also pretty clear. I mean, that being said, Jane, I think if someone is thinking they might rescind, they're probably just not going to even put their deposit in place, and they're going to be in breach of contract. But they're also just going to rescind and not provide the deposit. And we are seeing more of that, folks. Like there's been some notifications coming out from the Victoria Real Estate Board. There are people making frivolous offers. They're calling up and just, I'm not sure what the scam is, but there's a lot more scams going on out there, and we have to be really a lot more careful around people churning us out there and writing offers where they're not actually legitimate buyers.
So that being said, those buyers are giving the agents a bit of the spidey sense is kicking in, and they're knowing that there's something wrong. It's not jiving, and so you know, I've had that happen, and I'm like, something's not adding up here. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have a choice as an agent to go ahead and work with that person or not. We don't just work with everybody, right? There are some people who we think maybe disingenuous and may be pulling people's strings, or they may be fooling with the system. And so we don't have to work with everybody. It's not a right to work with an agent.
Yeah, that's a conversation I had recently with someone where, you know, you got listing and people call you up and just assume that, hey, you know what, I need you to show me this property on Tuesday at 4. It's your listing, and I want to view it. And you say, no, I'm sorry, you know, go get yourself a buyer's agent. Well, no, but isn't it your job? No, it's my job to represent my client. I can't represent a buyer. Well, I'm going to represent myself, so I won't be able to get a client. You need to show it to me. Okay, well, come into the office. Let's have a talk. Then let's go see it. Like, there's safety issues here. there's a lot that's going on out there in this industry, and we want to be careful, and we want to make sure that we're protecting our sellers from bringing people through that are frivolous as well.
Yeah, yeah. We just got a high five from Erica. Yes, thanks, Erica, for watching. Yeah, totally true. And that being said, you know, it doesn't just happen to new realtors. It happens to all sorts of realtors. So nobody is immune to this sort of thing.
With AI, with the ability to essentially you could have a video conversation with an AI bot. There's a lot more sophistication in out there in this world. I suspect we're going to see a lot more scams coming through that people are going to get. They're going to make it through the filters. So we got to be extra diligent. So,
anything else you want to add to that topic?
About the rescinding?
Yeah.
I mean, it gets interesting with subject to sale offers too. You know, they've added language into the contract for subject to sale offers because, and this gets a bit into the weeds, folks, but we are, you know, this is the whole point of why it's important to work with a real estate agent and to be, that we stay on top of these things, because it's those one-of situations. There are a million one-of situations that we all have to keep an open for. It's not that you are, oh, there's a 1 in a million chance this is going to happen. There's a million 1 in a million chances that happen when you're going through a real estate transaction, and we have to keep them open on all of them. So, you know, so for example, you make an offer and it's conditional on selling a home. Like using the car analogy, it's like, I'll buy your car, but only if I can sell my car first. And then the seller will say, okay, you know, you go ahead, you do that. I'll accept your offer. I'll sell you my car if you can sell your car. But if somebody else comes along and wants to buy my car, and offer me my price, then I'm going to come back to you and say, do you want to buy my car, because there's somebody else that's ready to buy it?
And it has to be unconditional, the second offer, and we have to wait the rescission period. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, so the difference is now
3 days.
You have to wait. Somebody could still write an unconditional offer on this backup property, and then some agents, I think, are confused and will go and invoke the time clause and tell the first buyer, okay, you've got 48 hours to remove. And then so they've now created a situation where this time, if the time clause, if the rescission period is active, you're in a gray area. And I know, because I just recently worked with an agent who didn't realize that we could have been in trouble.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, it's important to have an agent on each side, because we really are the check and balance for one another. And interpreting the rules, like, for instance, recently I had somebody tell me, so I wrote an offer and I said the purchase price includes GST. It was a resale. And the other agent's like, well, the buyer's going to pay the GST. And I'm like, no, the seller's going to pay the GST. If GST is applicable, it's based on the seller's use, and I'm not going to leave my buyer open.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah.
you know, they, it involved quite a discussion. If it's involving a discussion between us agents, it's going to involve a legal discussion later on. So best to get it just satisfied at the beginning. And that's being incorporated into the contract. There's lots of nuances. What we're saying is that sometimes different offices provide different levels of information
support.
Yeah, and also the agent has to be paying attention to what's going on, and if they're not, then they can put you at risk. So you really want to have somebody who's kind of up on the ball. And I am not doing well, by the way, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry you're not doing well.
We are going to end this show.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let everybody get on with their lives. How
do people get in touch with you, Andrew?
Yeah, you can reach out. I'm at 250-360-6106. info@andrewplank.com as email, and the website andrewplank.com as well. We also have the website realvibe.ca for our team. Speaking of team, we're missing Jen Lowe today. She is traveling in transit, I think. So she's a regular contributor and a guest and member, actually, of our team here. Jane, how do people reach you?
You can reach me at 250-744-0775. You can visit me by email at briarhillgroup@gmail.com. Go to my website, briarhillgroup.com, and see these shows and more at victoriarealestateshow.com. Don't forget also to follow me on Instagram at realtyteacher_remax_Victoria, or our team at Briar Hill Group. And for anybody want to reach out with Jen, her number is 250-217-4925. She's with the Modern Mortgage Group, and she can be reached at jen@jenlow.ca or jenlow.ca.
I think I'm going to register a URL that's written out underscore and then have an underscore and then written out underscore.com. You have a lot of underscores in your.
I know, whatever. Okay. Don't forget, we're on every Thursday next week. We'll be nearing the end of the month. We won't do our full monthly update, but we'll give you the stats of what's going on. And then we're going to be on for, I guess, the first 2 weeks in December. So if you have any questions you want answered, please give us a call. All right, we'll see you later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Jane.
Bye.